welcome back to She's At It Again. I bought a pork loin the other day and I found a new recipe for cranberry rosemary pork loin, and it's made in the slow cooker, so I'm all about that. You know why? Because I'm going to turn around and let you see what it looks like outside. It snowed! And as long as I'm inside, I am excited about snow. I love snow. I do not want to go out in it at all. It is so cold out there. It's in the single-digit temperatures. Crazy cold. So I'm just going to stay busy in the kitchen today, making some things. We've invited friends over for dinner, and they're only coming from across the street, so it's not like they say, oh, the roads are too bad, we can't make it. So these are some of our favorites. So let's go get busy on some cranberry rosemary pork loin in the slow cooker. Come on. Okay, we're at the stove top, and the first thing we want to do is get some cranberries heated up in some maple syrup and water. And look what I found in the freezer the other day when I was cleaning it out. This is a partial bag of organic cranberries, so that's what piqued my interest in making this recipe. So I don't quite have 12 ounces. I don't have any idea how much I took out of it, but you know what? It's close enough. It is close enough. If you have a partial bag of cranberries in your freezer, and a lot of us do, that buy cranberries for dishes around the holiday season, but then you think, oh, I just hate throwing it away, but I don't need this much. You put them in there because goodness knows cranberries last a long time in the freezer. If I've said refrigerator, I meant the freezer. So these have been in the freezer. I'm going to dump these in there. I just took them out of the freezer a while ago, so they're still pretty much frozen. And I was excited because I found organic ones, which isn't always possible around here. But when I find them, I find something to make with them. Now I'm going to use a half cup of maple syrup. Put that in there. And it also calls for a half a cup of water, so I'm going to use my water, instead of adding it to the maple syrup, I'm going to use it to rinse the cup out with, to add to that anyway. So I'll add part of it, swirl it around, because I want to get all that maple syrup in there. I just took it out of the cabinet a while ago, and I looked at my husband and I went, I could drink this. I love it that much. I did not grow up knowing what maple syrup was. I mean, I knew what it was, but I'd never had any before. And we took a trip to New England several years ago, and it's everywhere, and I could not get enough of it. It was so incredibly good. And we were tourists, so, you know, we looked like idiots walking around with our gallon jug of maple syrup everywhere. In fact, getting through security at the airport was kind of funny. I thought, I'm never going to get through security with this gallon metal jug, and that's what it was. There wasn't anything in plastic back then. It was a metal can, and no, they saw it, and they let me right through. So I guess they were used to tourists with maple syrup. All right, I've got my burner up pretty high, and we're just going to let these cook. And when they come to a boil, I'm going to take a spoon and just start mashing them around a bit. But for right now, let's go over and get our pork roast in the slow cooker. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, over here at the sink, this is what this looks like. Now, it says boneless pork sirloins, and there's 2 of them, so I Googled it to see what it was. I think it's just 2 pork tenderloins. I don't really know. I don't know what it is, but you know what? It's pork, and it's going to cook in the slow cooker. So whether you have a pork loin, which is really one of the least expensive cuts of meat that you can buy. If you're cooking for a large crowd and nobody has an aversion to eating pork, that is the thing to use, because it is so cost effective. Not a lot of waste to it. And this is what this looks like. Just kind of globby. I'll pick some of those areas off that look like they don't need to go in anything. like to wash things off and kind of run my hands over it, if for nothing else, just to check and make sure there's no little pieces of bone fragments in there. Because I have more than once caught little pieces of bone. And when I have a 2.5-year-old sitting at my table eating something that's supposed to be boneless and there's a bone in it, that's not a good situation for me nor her. So I try to find every little piece in there that could be dangerous for somebody to eat if they're not just being super careful with it. Now I'm going to get my slow cooker, and this is just the insert to it. We're going to put this in there. I think I can pour this in there without splashing. Let's see. Done. We'll wash that in a bit. Okay, so our ingredients that we're going to mix up. Let's go over here. We're going to be adding rosemary to this. We're going to be adding balsamic vinegar and a few other things, but we need to get those cranberries popping so they'll kind of break down, and we're going to pour it directly onto this. So let's go over there. All right, you can see that these have already started popping, and when I say popping, I just mean like exploding. And you can hear them. There you go. It's not a loud explosion like popcorn or something like that, but you can hear them bursting out of their little skins. Okay, that is looking lovely. We're going to turn that off. Let's take this over here. Set it right here on the counter. Cranberries have kind of a natural thickening ability when they're cooked, and they expose their insides, so basically they explode. So that's a nice consistency right there. It's almost like a jam without any pectin or anything to thicken it with. But I think, as far as I know, cranberries are the only thing that does that. Okay, to this we are going to add also 1/3 cup. It says fresh squeezed orange juice, but I'm telling you, I buy some organic orange juice from our Kroger store, and I know not everybody has Kroger, especially in Oklahoma, and I'm feeling sorry for you friends out there right now, because Kroger truly has some really good things with their store brand, and their Simple Truth organic orange juice is some of the best I've ever had. I mean, ever. So we're just going to use that. But if you have fresh oranges, then feel free to use the fresh squeezed orange juice. All right, 1/3 cup of the orange juice, 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of fresh, sorry, not necessarily fresh, but orange zest. Now, when I buy fresh oranges, before I ever cut them open, I wash them real good, scrub them, and I use the microplane zester to get the zest off. And I have containers of orange zest in my freezer, and I am so grateful for that on so many occasions, you know, in the seasons where you think, oh, I'm not going to zest this one. It's okay. It is worth every single time I go, you know what? I'm going to regret it if I don't. I'll get the zester out and go ahead and zest it. And I have that fresh orange peel in there, and it smells so absolutely fabulous. When I open the container, my hands smell like it when I get it on my fingers like this. And then the food just has such a pretty bright flavor to it. It's not like the dried kind that you get in the store. It is actually very oily, and it has that fabulous aroma to it. So we get our orange zest in there, and we will need 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. And this is just what I have right there. I'm not using my good Modena for this because this is going to be cooked. I'm going to use my Modena for my salad that goes with this. So just 1/4 cup of this. About 2 tablespoons of crushed rosemary. Now this is rosemary. I took some ends of some branches from some fresh rosemary that I have growing in my sunroom, and I was trying to transplant some seedlings. We'll see how they work out. They're not looking too good right now, but anyway, I had to take some of the lower leaves off to put them down in the soil, and I thought, I'm not going to throw that away. That's silly. And they smelled so good, and I love rosemary so much, it would be criminal for me to throw those in the trash. So I didn't, and that's what we're using for this, so nothing gone to waste. We need about 1 tablespoon of olive oil to go on this too. So just a little splash. And it calls for some salt and pepper. And you can always add more later, but you can't add less, so I'm going to put like maybe 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and the same with the pepper. We always have plenty of salt and pepper sitting on the table for people to use, so if they need more, they can certainly add it in there. Stir this up. This smells really good. It has that complex fragrance. I can smell the orange, but I can also smell the rosemary, which is my absolute favorite. I'm not smelling the maple syrup yet, but I'm sure that will come through in several ways. I wish I could raise this up so you could see it right like that, but you can see what it looks like right there. Then I'll show you what it looks like in a minute once I get this in there. My little tripod's just not quite tall enough. Literally just going to dump it in there. That looks so pretty. It's just so bright red. I'm probably going to wish I'd have discovered this recipe before Christmas. I could have made it during Christmas time. Okay, take a look at that. See what that looks like. All right, we are going to cook this on low for about 4 to 6 hours. So once this is done, we're going to have to let it rest a little while, but I'm going to let you show it. I'm going to show you what it looks like after it gets finished cooking and before our dinner guests arrive. And anyway, I think it's going to smell good. Now this time, if this were in the summertime, you know what I'd say. Plug that thing in outside, on the porch, in the garage, out in the backyard, out in the sunroom, somewhere where it's not going to fight your air conditioner. But today, it's like I said, it's cold outside, so we're going to plug this in the kitchen and be joyful about it. It's going to add to the heat and not a problem at all, and it's going to smell really, really good. So right now, it's a little bit after 10 o'clock. I'm going to get busy making some rolls. I'm going to roast some sweet potatoes for our salad because we're still hooked on that roasted sweet potato salad. If you've not watched that video, I recommend go look at it. And even though it doesn't look like anything spectacular, it just is. It is just a really, really good salad. So we're going to get those made. I'm sure we'll come up with something else to make with it, but we'll be back soon to show you what this looks like in its final product. Okay, so this has been in the slow cooker for probably 5.5 hours, and we're ready to take it out now. I tell you what fragrance is coming through. I thought the rosemary would be the dominant fragrance coming through, but it's that orange peel. It smells so very good. So we're going to take this out. I just need to turn it off, unplug it. I'm going to put it in a pan, and I have some things that need to go in the oven. I made rolls. I have baked macaroni and cheese in the oven, and I'll just put it in there with that in the serving dish, and that way it can just stay warm until we're ready to eat. Let me turn this around so you can see what this looks like. Haven't touched it. I took the lid off and just peeked at it a couple of times, but you can see some of the cranberries floating. They look like grapes in there. So, trust me, it's not grapes. All right, we're going to take this out. Remember, there are 2 of those roasts in there. See if I can get this out without making a splash and making a mess. Nope, that one's coming apart. Oh, I guess that was one of the roast. Okay, I see what it's doing. Okay, this is what it looks like. Another piece of meat in there. Put this aside. See if I can pick that up. Made a whole lot of juice. I'll just reserve part of that and serve it alongside the meat when we put it on the table. Another piece of meat. I probably should have opted for a deeper serving dish, but I wasn't real sure how much juice it made. Girls, you're not getting any of this. I'm going to slice it so I can get it down into that liquid as best I can while it's in the oven. I hear my dog. It's the same one that makes the mooing noise when I'm grating cheese and she thinks she needs some. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Zoe. I know. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the oven and just let it stay at 350, what everything else is cooking at, and then right before we get ready to eat, I'll take this out so it can just rest, and I'll show it to you then. So, we'll be right back. Okay, it's only been in there a few minutes. I kept thinking, do I wait until right before guests come? No, because phone calls needed to be made. My husband's in there. They were talking on the phone, so let's go ahead and get it out of the oven. We'll just let it rest until we're ready to eat, and it's going to stay plenty warm until that time. I'm not worried about it cooling off too much. So my rolls are in the oven. My baked macaroni and cheese is in the oven. Salad's in the fridge. We're ready to go, but I wanted to show it to you. I'm going to let those keep baking. Okay. This is what it looks like. That's a really pretty dish. It's not as colorful as when we started out, just because the cranberries lose a lot of their color, but nevertheless, it is going to be fabulous. I can smell the orange. I can smell the rosemary. Can't smell the cranberries, of course, but the tartness and the sweetness of those will come through. This is going to be fun. Okay, that is our pork loin. Actually, really any kind of pork roast could work with this. You don't have to use a pork loin. You don't have to use a pork tenderloin. Grab whatever piece of pork that you like. You could do this with pork chops. I'm pretty positive about that. My slow cooker was, I believe, a 3-quart slow cooker. It's my medium size one. You don't want to put it in one that's too big. Believe it or not, crock pots actually work best when you put the correct amount of ingredients in them. Slow cookers obviously are going to only need a limited amount of product or volume in it, but you don't want to get a big crock pot, put a little bit amount in there, because the cooking times are going to be off. So use a slow cooker that is an appropriate size for what you're using. The 3-quart seem to work pretty well with this. So we hope you give this a try. Recipe is in the description of the video. Comprehensive list of ingredients, and change it up however you feel necessary. But we hope you enjoyed this, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Bye, guys.